guide to the union's structure. And you'll notice it's like a hierarchical chart, but it's kind of turned on its head in some ways. So instead of the international officers being at the top, they're actually at the bottom of the list, and the people at the top are the membership of the ILWU. So this is what we would call a bottom-up structure. Has anyone heard of top-down unions versus bottom-up unions? Raise your hand. Or top-down union democracy versus a bottom-up union democracy?
Well, I did in the packet.
Okay, sweet. So do you want to tell us a little something about what a top-down union democracy might look like?
Yes. So top-down, the international union tells locals how to conduct business. Union officials make most of the decisions, and union members play a passive role.
Yeah. Anything else? Has anyone had like experience in another union that kind of was run that way, where the officers tell you what to do and international union tells you what to do? So ILWU, we like to think of ourselves as a bottom-up union. And does anyone want to like shout out anything that you think that would involve a bottom-up democracy, a participatory union democracy? Yeah.
Like the members can turn in resolutions.
The members can turn in resolutions. Yeah, good one.
We vote on what the officers should do.
You vote on what the officers should do. So you tell them what you want them to do. You direct them. Anyone else?
Locals make their own rules.
Yeah, locals make their own rules. So the international is not telling Local 10 what rules you have. You make your own rules. So I would also say that for a bottom-up democracy, there needs to be a certain amount of like grassroots participation. So people going to workshops like this, people thinking about how they want their local to look like, how they want their local to operate, and be involved in member meetings. People being encouraged to run for office, so rank and file are running for positions like Steward Council Chair or Education Committee Chair or the titled office of your local. There has to be a certain amount of accountability and transparency within the local so that you know kind of how things are run and you can ask questions. And also things like this, so that there's information that members can have and education that you get. Any questions about that? Okay. So top-down unions, we also often call them service model unions. So when there's not people participating in unions or an expectation of people participating in their unions, then you kind of get this group of people that's going to like come in and do the work that needs to be done in the union. And so you sort of end up with these people that are like, you know, experts coming down and telling you how you should be in the union, instead of having those responsibilities put out with a bunch of different people doing them. There's other unions. I don't want to like speak poorly of them, but ILWU, like I am a staff person. I work at the behest of the international titled officers who work at the behest of you guys. I'm not a staff person that tells people how to do things. I just kind of set things up for you. There's other unions like SCIU or something that have, you know, the officers of that union might have been staff people and not have ever had worked any of the jobs of the members that they represent. So in ILWU, the officers have worked on the docks or worked in hotels or worked in warehouses. Bottom-up unions also require kind of constantly working to get more members involved. So with more people involved, it makes that decision-making process more democratic, And it's a really difficult task to do that. But I think the more people involved, the more democratic you are. And then the other thing to be aware of is that bottom-up unions can become top-down unions if no one gets involved. So it's something that we always have to work for. So I'm going to call your attention again to this. And again, if you can't share it, you can go to ILWU.org and get it from that website. So this organizational chart, it shows the structure of the union. The membership is at the top of that structure. And as I mentioned, we have members from across the Pacific Coast. And we have areas in the union. So that includes Canada is considered an area. We have Hawaii and Alaska are considered areas. And then we have geographical areas on the west coast of the continent. So Washington, Puget Sound, Columbia, River, Oregon, Northern California, and Southern California. And then we have the Inland Boatmen's Union of the Pacific is considered an area just because they're a division of the ILWU. So all of those organizations make up our union. We have 3 divisions. We have the Marine Division, which is the Inland Boatmen's Union. We have the Warehouse Division. There are warehouse locals in all of the areas that we have. And then we have the Coast Longshore Division. So has anyone heard of Coast Longshore Division? None of you? Okay, yeah. So
Yeah, that's us.
you are part of the Coast Longshore Division. So that is comprised of the locals that are longshore locals that are part of the Pacific Coast Longshore Contract Document, which is the collective bargaining agreement that covers your positions here. That covers all the longshore workers in California, Oregon, and Washington, but not the longshore workers in Hawaii, Canada, or Alaska. They have their own contracts. They're not part of that division. So underneath the membership, so that kind of describes our membership. Underneath the membership, we have the International Convention, is the second highest decision-making body in the union. So with the membership, like most of the decisions that are made that impact your daily life as a worker come from your own local and your participation in Local 10. The International Convention is the second highest decision-making body. Their decisions cover the entirety of the union. So they make decisions that impact everybody. And the people that participate in that, they're delegates that are elected by their locals. So, and then locals get a certain number of delegates that's based on the size of their local. So Local 10, I don't remember how many delegates you get, but it's less than Local 13, which we know is this huge longshore local. You get,
Is 10?
you had 10 delegates last
10
time?
when it's not a convention. When
Okay,
it's a convention, it's 11.
okay,
That includes the president.
okay. So there's other like small locals that might get less than that. So the International Convention meets every 3 years. The last one, we changed the areas where it is. The last one was in Canada, and the next one is going to be in Washington, Seattle area. And like I said, those delegates are elected by the members, and those delegates bring resolutions from their membership to go to that convention. And we're going to have some examples of those later. But it's really kind of cool that you can pass something here at a Local 10 meeting and bring it to the delegates, your elected delegates can bring it to the convention, and that can become the policy of the whole union. And Local 10 in particular has a legacy of putting forward a lot of really incredible social justice and very progressive things that have become the policy of the whole union. And the policy includes like more conservative areas of the union. So it's a real power that you have as a member to bring resolutions to your membership meeting that could end up going to convention. For people in the Longshore division, which you are, there's also below the International Convention, or equal to the International Convention, there's the Longshore Caucus. They meet once a year, and they go over things that relate to your contract. So Vanetta brought up a couple resolutions that have gone to caucus, but things that might relate to your pension, your health and welfare, that goes to the caucus, and those delegates are elected by your membership, and similar to the convention, there's a different number depending on the size of your local, and they make the decisions that impact the coast-wise contract. Any questions about any of this? Okay.
So if we don't like something that's going on with our health and welfare, our benefits, then it's an annual system.
Yeah, so I think what happens is that Local 10 membership makes a resolution about that, and those delegates that you elected to go to and represent the local at the caucus bring that up to the caucus. Does that make sense? Yeah. So then below the caucus, or below the convention and caucus, in terms of importance, is our International Executive Board. So they meet 3 times a year. They take care of business for the union in between conventions. They also pass statements of policy, but those ultimately go to the convention to be codified. They do things like, okay, a good example, do you guys remember when there was a tsunami in Japan like 10 years ago? So they voted to send money to Japan. Like that's something that happened that they couldn't wait for 3 years for the convention. So they pass resolutions along that line. Or someone is in a contract negotiation and they need help from the international or funding from the international executive board is able to pass resolutions to support that. And then similar to that, and then below that are the international titled officers. So the current ones, there's 4 of them. Bobby Olvera is from Local 13. He is our international president.
By way of Local 10.
By way of Local 10, yes.
He's a Local 10 member first.
We actually went to the same high school. Not funny. And then we have a international secretary treasurer who's also from Local 10. Does anyone know who he is? Yep. And then we have 2 vice presidents. We have Ryan Whitman from Local 23 and Brandon, he's the mainland vice president, and we have a vice president that just handles the affairs of Hawaii. His name's Brandon Wolf. And also for the Coast Longshore Division, there are 2 Coast Committeemen. They are Cam Williams, who comes out of Local 19 in Seattle, and Frank Ponce de Leon, that comes out of Local 13. Also, the International President and the International Vice President mainland sit on the Coast Committee. So they are officers of both the International and the Coast Longshore Division.
When you say coast, why or just coast?
So the Coast, when you hear people say that, it's like you probably hear it from people other than me. That just means those people that are under the Pacific Coast Longshore contract document. So it's people like you guys at Local 10. That's your collective bargaining agreement. It's just those people. So it's not all the longshore workers in the union. It's just the people that are under that contract document. Does that make sense? Like they have a different contract in Alaska and Hawaii and Canada. They have different contracts. Yeah, and they just like organize in a different way than we did, so they don't have the same. Their contracts are similar in terms of what they get to what you guys have, but it's a little different, it's a different contract, so. Yeah,
The Hawaii, what was his name? The vice president?
Brandon Wolf.
Brandon.
Yeah, and if you have slides, it kind of shows what they do, or who they are. And I'll kind of go over that. From here, like if there's a resolution that's passed at Local 10, that resolution could be elevated to the International Executive Board if more support is needed for that resolution. So like if you guys are having a jurisdictional need here, and you pass a resolution that the local is gonna put resources into fighting that fight, that resolution might come to the International Executive Board if you need more support from the international. It could go to the Longshore caucus, or it could go to the convention. So I'm gonna sort of like talk about what each of those things do.
That's your question.
Yeah.
You know, so some of the, I guess, I wouldn't call it a problem, but knowing what resolution goes to what level. Like, so sometimes you might say something on the mic at our meeting, and say, oh, that's a local thing, or oh, that's an international thing.
Right.
So knowing how to decipher what is a local thing and an international thing, like for example, let me just give you an example. We want to bring a resolution to like on weekend pay, holiday pays, the night side person and day side pay, right? Maybe a resolution be like, well, you know, majority hours of work, we should get the holiday pay as a night pay, you know, or weekend pay should be night pay, for example. Would that be?
Is that a change to your contract document?
Yes.
Okay, so that's like a resolution that you would pass at the local, and then your delegates from the local would take that to the Longshore Division caucus and ask for the caucus to support that resolution.
And it would be a contract caucus,
Okay.
because
yeah.
it wouldn't, let me stand up, we should 9668. That's why I was kind of alluding to earlier. You have two separate kinds of caucuses. One is a regular caucus where it's just day-to-day stuff, right? That's the Longshore that meet every year. Then you have contract caucus. That means dealing with the contract. Anything that's under that contract, under that agreement, if we take it now and take it to a regular caucus, it's gonna get deferred to a contract caucus. So it'll be sitting there waiting until they have that contract caucus, and then it will get brought back up, and it will be in your delegate's packet. And what you have to also do is follow it, because you may not have the same delegates that you had when you first presented it, and then you may have different delegates that was elected for the contract caucus. And they may not know about the one that was deferred. So we had that issue at the last convention, at the last
Caucus.
Contract caucus, where there was some local 10 resolutions that wasn't in there. But thanks, because Trent had been on these caucuses numerous times and figured, say, hey, wait a minute, we had sent a resolution and it got deferred. And they went and they dug it up, and it was 2 of them, they brought them. So with that being said, that was like lesson learned, because I was there when all of this was taking place. So that's why the members themselves, when you do a resolution, make sure you follow that resolution. Get with your caucus delegates are supposed to give a report when they come back. And some of that's been kind of lax on some of, that's why you watch who you send to vote to go to the caucus, because they supposed to come back, because they're working for this local, working for the membership. They're supposed to come back and give you a report of what took place at that caucus. So if you had a resolution, you want to know what happened to it. Was it voted on? What happened, right? That's how you follow it. So if it was deferred because of it was a contract issue, then it get heard, and then you know that it's gonna get heard at that contract caucus.
And so, just to piggyback on the pay.
What's your name, brother? I'm Thomas, 1015.
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you mine.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm Stanley Cooper, 101776, and I guess when everybody speak tonight, we'll do the same thing, introduce ourselves. So back to my question, since I'm, like a pay thing, right? So I assume, since it's a 3-year contractual thing right there, it's not like LA Nightside people get paid that, because it should be a 3-year thing for everyone under that umbrella for the 3 years.
What do you mean 3-year thing? What are you talking about?
Well, so you say that the pay, we take it from our level, the local level, international, up to the contractual, which is every 3 years versus the every annual year.
Mm-hmm.
So since we're talking about pay, which is in a contract,
Mm-hmm.
and that is one of my resolutions, is that since I'm a night side person, on weekends, night side people should get, in holidays, we should get night side pay, not day side.
I understand.
So-
That's been brought up before. I've
Right.
been to caucuses where that's been brought up before.
Right, and so I assume since that's a 3-year thing, it umbrellas everyone. It's not like a local over here.
Yeah,
It's-
it covers everybody.
Right.
So you have representatives of caucus delegates up and down the coast. They've been voted in from their locals and they hear everybody's resolutions. It may be another similar resolution just like yours, and what will happen, it could be 3 or 4 resolutions pertaining to what you're talking about. And then the delegates will hear it, and then more than likely, it might be one a little better than yours that was written. And what they would do, they'll take all, so if you got 4, they'll take 3 of them and file it with that one. So they all go together. And then that one gets heard at the contract calls. So different areas may have the same, resolutions about different things. And then they read them out, and then if there's one that's a little better than the one that was written, then they file them together, and then it gets heard. It's not that it won't get heard, it's just that it will get heard, and then your caucus delegates at that time will vote on which resolutions they want the head, which is your international officers who are gonna be negotiating that contract. They will have a book, and this is what the members voted, this is what the members want, and that's where it's either gonna happen or it's not gonna happen. Because they're negotiating with the employer on your behalf or what you want.
I'm just gonna go back to the convention for just a sec. Thanks for that question. I think that was a really good question that kind of clarified a lot of stuff. Yeah. Another couple of things that the convention does, other than pass resolutions, the candidates for the International Executive Board are nominated at the convention, and the candidates for international titled office, so the international president and the vice presidents and the secretary treasurer, those people are nominated at the convention. But then they are voted on by a secret mail-in ballot that goes out to the members. So the members all get to vote on those positions, but the nomination happens at the convention. And the caucus is the same. And then the other thing that the convention does is they review the union's activities for the preceding 3 years, and they vote on approving the report of the officers for that 3-year period, which sort of details like the work that all the staff has done and the work that the titled officers have done, our organizing program. And they approve also the budget for the next 3 years. So right now, one of my jobs is to kind of look at what my own budget is for the education program and kind of tell the executive board what I've been, how I've been using the money and how the officers have been using the money for that education program. So they know how to recommend a budget that will cover our programs for education. But we have all, organizing program, communications, all kinds of stuff. And then the International Executive Board, in addition to passing statements of policy and approving substantial non-budgeted expenditures between conventions, they also can hear certain grievances that have gone through the local grievance process and weren't settled at that process. You can, if there's a grievance that goes through the grievance machinery, I'm talking about an internal grievance, not a grievance with the employer, but an internal local grievance. And that the local's own grievance machinery has been exhausted. A person who still feels that their needs haven't been met can appeal to the international president. And the international president will make a ruling on that. And if they don't like that, they can go before the International Executive Board, and the International Executive Board will hear their grievance and make a ruling on that grievance. That is Articles 8 and 9 of the International Constitution, and it detail those processes. The International yep.
And I like to say your very own went through that process. You? Yes. Because, yes, a lot of y'all don't know that when I was the vice president the first time, it got challenged. And it went all the way to the coast.
To the international.
Yeah, to the international.
August last year.
And the members, I should say autonomy, was in the hands of members of the International Executive Board that don't know nothing about Local 10's autonomy. So I went to go defend the members' autonomy, because the members did what they felt was right, but the member felt that no, it still wasn't right, and they went through the steps. And at that time, Pete Daly was the president, and I was his vice president. And because it was about me, he took a step back and said, sister, you go handle it, because your president is supposed to go and represent the local. But because I was the vice president and he felt that I had more knowledge about it, that I would go and represent the local in his absence. And we won and prevailed. So, yeah.
Thanks for that example. I remember that. The International Executive Board can also send investigatory teams to locals if there are problems in the locals. I have to tell you, this is extremely, extremely rare when this happens. It's usually like a wide amount of members from that local will appeal to the International Executive Board and ask for help, or there's a local that has totally not done their like financial responsibilities, and members have come to us for help with that. It's very, very rare. They don't like, they're not in the job of like getting into any local's business unless it's really, really bad and there's an appeal made. They also, there's an IEB, sorry, we call it for short the IEB, International Executive Board. They have a group of trustees that meet before every IEB meeting, and they review the international's expenditures. And they make a report to the International Executive Board members, and that expenditures are approved. They're reviewed and approved or not. So they're voted on. And then the final thing that they do is when we have a federal presidential election, the IEB will make those endorsements for international president. Locally, you have a district council that makes recommendations for state and local offices. And then the International Executive Board members, I mentioned that's from every area, and that's also the number of members in the areas is dependent on the size of the locals in those areas. And if there's more than 3 positions for that area, which is the case for Northern California, no 2 can be from the same local. for the same industry. So for Northern California, your international executive board members are Trent Willis from Local 10. Jose Nunez is from Local 6 Warehouse. And Dave Gonzalez is there from Local 34. And that's it on that.
I just want to thank you because whenever I call her, she always answers, and educate and get things moving along. She's my go-to person all the time. Anytime I need answers for anything, I always call Robin. And this is a small token of the Education Committee and the Steward Council thanking you for coming and taking the time.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you guys for coming. I heard some very good, powerful resolutions.